Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Racing Gaming League Round 3 here on the PS4 from the German Grand Prix. My name is Austin Smith, and this is going to be an exciting race. A track that has seen its fair share of changes over the years, but it is still a very exciting track, maybe now more so than ever. We're going to have 34 laps around here, a track that has been a part of Formula 1 since 1970, and a track that definitely throws up the, well, a little bit of an oddball there, as I think we may, oh no, there you go. I was wondering a little bit because it said lap 1 of 3 in the top left, but that has now gone over to qualifying, so everything right. We're in full wet conditions, so this is not just a bit of rain, this is a lot of rain coming down, and it's certainly going to throw a spanner into the works of some of these drivers who were probably hoping for a little bit less water on track. I mean, mostly none at all was probably the hope. But we have 14 drivers here today, including our championship leader, RT Thomas, who is not going to be the first one out on track, or is he? No, he is not. That will be Trench, who is going to lead the charge, followed by one of the Mercedes, that is Pablo Joglar. You can see the track map on the right side. And we also have a Renault, I think, that is out on track. That should be Kettles Dylan, Best Bob as well. Some drivers switching to the intermediates, thinking about looking at it. Ryan looking at Vaporeon, actually switching. And yes, Kettles Dylan is out on track. Jay Clarkey in the Ferrari is out on track. We have OTG in the Alfa Romeo out on track as well now. And more drivers leaving the pit lane, as Pablo Joglar just overtook Trent on the outlap. And so yeah, it seems like it is full wet conditions, some drivers waiting for intermediates. Ryan has fully switched to the intermediates now, as did Vaporeon. However, they're still both in the pit lane and they're not making any moves to move out. In fact, both have switched back to the full wets and Ryan are back again to the inters. My goodness. They're not really sure. They're checking. I think they're checking to see what is the better tire at this very moment, and then going forward, when do the conditions change? I think that is what they're trying to figure out right now, as Pablo Joglar takes us around a lap of the Hockenheim ring into turn 1. Oh, as we have Trench. Where did that happen? That is on the start-finish line. I wish we could see what has happened there. I think yeah, Jay Clarkey. So, do we see his car? Oh, there it is on the right side. Oh my god. I think he just got it massively wrong out of the final corner and put it into the pit wall. And therefore, Trench is already out of qualifying. If everyone else sets a lap time, that means he will start from the back of the grid. That is remarkable. Meanwhile, we go back to Pablo Joglar. Obviously, not much point in riding on board with him, since we were looking to have him take us round a lap of this circuit. But he goes purple, obviously, in the first 2 sectors. And now through the final one, the tricky one, the tight and narrow one, where it's really hard to overtake at all. A lot of narrow corners, tight corners, and then through the final one and onto the start-finish line, and it will be a 1 minute 24.8. That's already a pretty good lap time. Next one around will be... Oh, it's hard to tell. I think RT Thomas is on an outlap. It will be Best Bob 127.7. Then we'll have... Not Ryan, no. Kettles Dylan 127.8. Jay Clarkey should be next. 126.6. Now we're getting them. Thomas starts his lap. Vaporeon, meanwhile, is out on the inters. Vaporeon starts his first lap and immediately invalidates it on the intermediates in turn 1. We're going to try and find a car that is... Oh, there we go. Just out of the final corner. TTG Honey Badger, he will take us around the track as he goes provisional pole 124.7. Beats Andres by 9 milliseconds through turn 1. You see how tricky it is there. Onwards to turn 2. The track narrows a little bit here between turns 1 and 2. Turn 3, turn 4 into the Parabolica. Long turn 5, full speed, but a great design, because what it does is it makes drivers go narrow through it. Obviously you always go on the left side, but then the left side turns to the outside here for turn 6, the hairpin, which allows drivers to shoot it up the inside of the hairpin and overtake. Now turn 7, the right hand king. Now turn 8, Mercedes Arena. 9, 10, 11. Counts as a lot of corners here, really. Oh, and he is struggling. Last sector, the tricky one. Turn 12. Don't run too wide here or you invalidate your lap. Thankfully, he did not do that because he lost more time than he gained. Turn 13, Zach's corner. 14 left, full speed, not in the rain. 15, and then the double right-hander, the ice rink on the outside. Turn 16, and the suit curve. Turn 17. And through the final corner, again with a lot of fighting, Honey Badger actually improves by another 10th to a 124.6. However, not enough to beat ILRT Thomas, who has set a 24.281 in the meantime, and take provisional pole away from him. Here comes ILRT Thyman. You may remember him as MES Thyman. He has joined the Inside Line Racing team in the meantime, and he goes P5 24.8. You see 5 drivers. They're really, really close. We are talking just over half a second between ILRT Thomas and ILRT Thyman. So really, really close affair there. We also have Pat, who is going slow because he has no wait, no, he has a front wing. Oh, that looks so deceptive. That front wing looks so deceptive. Meanwhile, Vaporeon going through the end of the second sector. Turn 11. This time looks good on the inters. Kettles Dillon also switching to the inters. We're looking back to Pat through the final 2 corners. That's not going to be a competitive lap time. You can see in the top right, it's already a 1 minute 34, 35, 35.6. Vaporeon, that's not going to be competitive either. 1 minute 30 as he comes through the final corner, 133 already. So, yeah, that's going to be even worse than Pat's lap at 138.0. We also have Ryan still without a lap time as he goes through the hairpin. Oh, and Ryan sends it into the wall. My goodness, that is the exit of turn 7, entry of turn 8. And he just completely lost control there. In the dry, that corner is really, really not tricky. In the wet, well, all of a sudden that changes. And Ryan is very, very lucky here to not be out of qualifying. Very, very lucky here. And he lives to fight another day. As he carries his car back to the pit lane. And more drivers now switching on to intermediate tires in the pits. So Vaporeon, let's see, Vaporeon maybe now with a better time comes to the final quarter. 120, 120, 122. This might be challenging for provisional pole, and it does. 123.9. First one to break into the 123s. Vaporeon takes provisional pole on the intermediate, so they are not that bad after all. And it seems like they are indeed the faster tire. Meanwhile, not much going on track. We have 3 cars on outlaps. Thomas, Honey Badger, and OTG, and 1 car on an in-lap with Vaporeon here. Everyone else is in the pits right now. We have Pablo Jogla now. Let's talk a little bit about the standings right now in the championship. Thomas is the championship leader after winning both races so far this season. Brazil, the season opener, and Belgium, double winner, IRLT Thomas. And obviously, if you win the first 2 races, you are the favorite, by definition, for the 3rd race of the season as well. Then we have in 2nd place in the standings, well, pretty much a tie for 2nd place between Lego Minecraft, who was not able to make it tonight in the Renault. Kettles Dylan, the only Renault driver here today, and Andres XD Loco, who's currently sitting in 4th place in the Mercedes. His teammate Pablo Jogla is 4th in the standings with 14 points. 33 points, by the way, for both Lego Minecraft and Andres, respectively. 14 points, Pablo Jogla in P4. 5th place, IRLT Pat in the Alfa Romeo, also 14 points. Jay Clarkey in the Ferrari in P6 with 12. Ryan 55X in the Williams with 11. TTG Honey Badger in the Racing Point is in P8 with 10 points. Then we have pretty much a tie for 9th between 3 drivers. Samuel Bean, who was not able to make it. Trench, Vapor Trench, who we saw binded into the pit wall on the start-finish straight. In P10, and Vaporeon, who's currently the provisional pole sitter, he's down to P11, scoring his first 8 points last race in Belgium with a 6th place. Then we have OTG in 12th with 2 points, and Delima Super in 13th with 1 point. Everyone else, Loney, Best Bob, Thyman, Toxic Tomato, King Alex, Kettles Dylan, and Scott Rennie. No points so far this season, and for some of them that is not going to change because they're not here. Namely Loney, Toxic Tomato, King Alex, and Scott Rennie. As RLT Thomas now 121.5 beats Honey Badger out by about 3/10, just under 3/10. As everyone else still trying to set lap times. Vaporeon out there on now 5-lap old intermediates. Here comes Andres, yellow flag in Sector 2. I could not see who that was for, but we have a bunch of cars there now approaching the Mercedes Arena. If you can see on the track map, we have, I think, a Ferrari, an Alfa Romeo, a Haas, and I can't tell what the others, maybe a Williams. There's Andres now, and Pablo both beat out Thomas, and it's a Mercedes 1-2 right now. And since we have a Mercedes 1-2, let's talk about the constructors. RLT Thomas leads Toro Rosso to P1 right now in the championship with 50 points. Mercedes, however, is just 3 points behind that. 47 for the pairing of Andres and Pablo. 3rd place Renault, 33 points with Lego Minecraft and Kettles Dylan. All 33 coming from Lego Minecraft, finishing P2 in the season opener in Brazil and P3 in Belgium. OTG and Pat in the Alfa Romeo are sitting at 16 points. Jay Clarkey and Delima Super in the Ferrari sitting at 13. Oh, sorry, I missed someone because my graphic is wrong because, yeah. So, yeah. I missed the Racing Points. The Racing Points are sitting at 18 points in P4. My bad. Honey Badger and Vaporeon, the TTG guys. They're in P4 in the standings. Then 16 points for OTG and Pat. In the Alfa Romeo, 13 points in the Ferraris, Jay Clarkey and Delima Super. 11 points for the Williams, Ryan and Scott Rennie. 8 points for both McLaren with Trench and Loney, and Haas with Sammy Bean and Thyman. And then we have one team that is still sitting at 0 points. And that would be Red Bull Racing, who have no driver here today, so they will remain at 0 points. Now, 3 minutes, 40 seconds. Has the rain stopped? No, it's still coming down. You can see that's why we went on board here. As Honey Badger now goes provisional pole, 120.9. That's a really good lap time already for these light rain conditions. A low 1 minute 20 is where you could expect the pole time ultimately to be. As let's try and find someone. Thomas is on an out lap. Andres is on an in lap. Pat is on an in lap. You know what? Let's go with Thomas here. Although Vaporeon is close to. Oh no, he's also okay. Yeah, a lot of drivers now going into the pit lane to prepare for their final run on these intermediate tires. Let's go. Let's go with Thomas. Sure. Let's go with our championship leader. As he rounds the final few corners of the track, turns 14, 15. Got a couple cars behind him who are also on either in laps or out laps. And here he comes to the final corner. I think that was Honey Badger who was going on to or going into the pits now. And here we go. Thomas through turn 1 just keeps 2 wheels inside the white line. That is legal. That is the limit. 2 wheels inside the white lines at all times. Otherwise, the virtual stewards will invalidate your lap, will disqualify your lap. Now towards the hairpin. Got a little bit of slipstream off of his teammate Best Bob there. You can see him in the background. It gets the apex nicely there. Good exit as well. Through the kink of turn 7. And then Mercedes Arena, turns 8, 9, 10, 11. Really tricky section. Got a little bit of undulation as well there. Now, final sector, the technical sector. Xylity Pat retires. Has he retired? I think, yeah, he has retired in the pit lane, it seems. So, Best Bob gets a 5-place grid penalty for a collision with Dylan. Dylan has retired from the session. That certainly is something else. Yeah, Dylan is in entry of turn 8. We can't see it right now. You can only see it on the track map on the right. Now he's gone. But that was on the entry of turn 8. As Thomas goes provisional pole 120.7. What do Honey Badger, Andres, and Pablo have still left in them to fight, Thomas, here? Meanwhile, we look at Jay Clarkey in the Ferrari. He is coming towards the Mercedes Arena. This is the spot, let me see, right here. That is the spot where Kettles Dylan was allegedly crashed out by Best Bob. Best Bob getting a 5-place grid penalty for that one. We didn't see what happened. Unfortunately, we can't use a replay. But what we can see is that Jay Clarkey goes purple in the middle sector. So that is definitely something to look out for. Honey Badger, not able to improve. 120.9 stays for him. No improvement for the Racing Point driver. Here comes Jay Clarkey through the final corner. Can he fight Thomas? Full pole position? No, he cannot. He improves by 4/10. Just beats out Pat. But, meanwhile, Pablo Jogla has invalidated his lap, so Andres is the only one who can battle right now. Maybe Vaporeon, maybe Thyman. Thomas retires. He's feeling safe. I mean, there's nothing he can do at this point. Andres, purple in the middle sector as well. Goes through the Zax curve. Now the final 2 corners. Avoid the ice rink on the outside. He does. Through the final corner. And what can Andres do? No improvement. Loses a 10th. Oh, wow. Then we have Delima Super. He invalidated his lap, so no improvement for him. And that means Arlo T. Thomas starting from pole position once again. However, his challenges this time around are really, really close. There's the result. And you see RLT Thomas 120.7, a really, really good lap time there. Honey Badger 120.9, just under 2/10 away. We got Andres in P3 121.0. We have the first three within just over a quarter of a second. We have the top 8 within a second. In fact, within 8/10, exactly 8/10 of each other. Andres P3, Thyman 4, Pablo 5, J Clarky 6, Vaporeon 7, Pat 8, OTG 9, Best Bob 10, Ryan 11, Delima Super 12, Kettles Dylan 13, and Trench without a lap time as he crashed out very early on before setting a lap. So, what are the weather conditions going to be for the race? We're going to have 34 laps, 4.574 kilometers each. Meaning we're going to end up with, I think, around 156 kilometers, 157 maybe. And it seems clear. It's not sunny, but it is certainly, it is dry. I shouldn't say clear, but it is dry. Definitely very overcast, but it is dry for now. I think that's the best way to put it, is probably to say it's dry for now, as the drivers are choosing their setups, trying to make some last second changes, maybe choosing their tires, choosing their strategy for the most part, because obviously their setups for the most part are locked in. It's Parc Ferme rules, so whatever setup they used in qualifying, they are stuck with now for the race. There's no way to change that. There are some minor changes they can make to brake balance, etc. I think front wing as well, but that's about it. Everything else on the car cannot be changed as we go for formation lap. And let's quickly adjust all of this. There we go. So, RLT Thomas leads them around the first 4.574 kilometers of this track, with Honey Badger in the Racing Point behind him. Amazingly, Racing Points are currently sitting at 18 points in the standings. If Honey Badger finishes in second, the position he now will start in, that would equal the Racing Point team results for the first 2 races. Just like that. And they still have Vaporeon in P7, so if he moves up the order a little bit, this could be a really, really fruitful event for the Racing Point team here. Certainly a team to look out for, as Best Bob, yeah, he's been demoted down the order, and Sammy Bean has joined, so we actually... Oh, he's in the wrong car, by the way, as well. So he is in the Red Bull. He should not be. He should be in the Haas. That's something to remember. He should be in the Haas. He is in a Red Bull. But his points will count towards Haas and not Red Bull. Really, really important, because he joined late, and if you join late, you are not able to choose your car. The game will choose a car for you. So, Sammy Bean now stuck in a Red Bull. It is the way it is, but he can still fight from P15, and considering that he has 8 points in the championship already, I wouldn't be surprised to see him move up the order a little bit and maybe get some more points as the cars now make their way onto the grid for the start of the race. 34 laps, German Grand Prix, Hockenheimring. Get ready, as there comes Sammy Bean around the final corner. He still needs to take his grid position, and then we are going to get underway for the race. What does it hold for us? The cars are ready. They are lined up on the grid. The engines are firing. We are so close, and we are underway for the German Grand Prix here in the Racing Gaming League. It is a really good start from Thomas. Honey Badger already struggling a little bit, but can defend into turn 1. Not everything going so far. And Vaporeon is out. Best Bob collides with Pat, and we have a safety car already after just 1 corner here at the German Grand Prix. Pat got massively piled into. My goodness. Let's look at the damage. Let's assess the damage as we are under safety car. Not much has changed. I mean, look at Sammy Bean and Trench. Trench from 13th to 6th. Sammy Bean from 15th to 7th. That is remarkable. I think Thomas should have no damage. No, he does not. Same with Honey Badger. Pablo, Joglar, no damage. Andres, no damage. Oh, right side end plate for OTG. Right side end plate missing for OTG. He might see... he might be one to go into the pits. Let's look at Trench. Nope, that looks fine. Sammy Bean looks fine. Oh, DeLima, also right side end plate for him as well. You can see it right here fantastically. Yep, that right side end plate is missing. I think left side end plate for... Yep, left side end plate for Dylan also missing. Kettles Dylan, that's still looking fine. Jay Clarkey, that is not looking fine. Right side end plate for him missing as well. Same for Best Bob, left side end plate. Left side end plate for Thyman as well, and I think it was the right side end plate for Pat. Unfortunately, I could not see that, but obviously after being piled into like that, he has to come in. That means, hold on, I think I said Ryan has... Yeah, Ryan is missing part of his end plate on the left side, but he continues. He now effectively prioritizes track position over a fixed car. I'm not sure that's the right call, but I mean, hey, who am I to argue? But yeah, everyone else is looking fine and dandy as Trench just loses positions here. What happened there? Trench just lost 3 positions by going off track. And Sammy Bean now up to P5. That is a remarkable race so far already from Sammy Bean. One corner, then we get a safety car, and Sammy Bean's already up to P5. Unbelievable. But yeah, we are going to get the notification around here when the safety car comes into the pits, around this part of the track, before this right-hand corner here. That's when we should get the notification as we go back to the leader and see the virtual Bernd Mailander driving around the Mercedes AMG safety car, an institution of Formula One since the 1980s. It's always been the Mercedes safety car, Mercedes-Benz safety car. That is a sponsorship deal that Formula One has with... Oh, sorry, since 1996. Since the 1990s. My bad. Yeah, it's always been a Mercedes. It's always been a Mercedes AMG, in fact, since 1996. And we are now in the 11th generation of Mercedes safety cars. Just a little bit of info, you know, since there's not much going on right now, as Best Bob pits again. For, what is he? Let's look at the tires right now. Everyone on mediums or hards. Thyman and Clarkey, after the pit stop, went on to softs. Now, soft tires around this track don't last too long. You can take them around 9 laps. That's not a lot when you race 34. So that is definitely surprising. Obviously, with every lap behind the safety car, that doesn't really fully count towards those 9 laps, because you are racing under a lot, or racing with a lot less speed. You are not taking the corners as quickly as you do under full race pace, and so it doesn't really, you know, if it says they go 11 laps maybe on these, as there we go, we have the message now, safety car in this lap, so it will be Arlo T. Thomas who controls the pace. But yeah, Thyman and Clarkey, I think if the safety, or with the safety car coming in now, they won't be going longer on these softs than lap 12 maybe. And that's stretching it. That is really stretching it. So I'm not sure what their plan is. I'm sure they have one, but it's not exactly obvious to me. Maybe they're hoping for some rain. Maybe they're hoping for another safety car period. I don't know. But here goes Thomas. Now he is starting to accelerate. We are on full green racing again. No overtaking until the finish line. And here we go. We are back for our first, hopefully, full lap of Grand Prix racing. And Thyman already taking a position off of OTG. In fact, 2 positions. OTG really getting mugged off. Make that 3. as he gets overtaken by Thyman, Clarkey, and Pat in one corner and a bit. He's really struggling out here, it seems. And Ireland Thomas now trying to pull away, but he's got Honey Badger behind him. The two Mercedes then forming a little bit of a train there with Sammy Bean. As Sammy Bean goes around the outside of Pablo Joglar. That is certainly a bold move, but it doesn't pan out. He remains behind the two Mercedes. Really tricky situation here. Being stuck behind two cars of the same manufacturer, of the same team. Really, really difficult to try and get past as he runs wide there. That should be a track extension warning, most likely. As Kettles Dillon now moving down the order. Now this seems to be the fight here. Andres, Pablo, and Sammy Bean as Honey Badger is falling off. And remember, no DRS until the beginning of lap 6. Lap 6 is when we get our first bit of DRS. And it will only be on lap 6 on the Parabolica. We will not get it on the start-finish straight. And we will not get it into turn 2 either. So only here is the first detection point. And then here the first opening point of the DRS. And then it goes all the way down to the hairpin. Pretty long DRS zone just in general here. But he needs to stay within a second, and right now he's not doing that. In fact, Sammy Bean seems to be the first one to be closer than a second to the guy ahead, as Ryan now goes past Vapor Trench and moves up to P6. Nice overtake there into the hairpin. We keep looking as Thyman and Clarkey battling. Thyman to the inside of Clarkey. Overtakes the Ferrari, now has both Ferraris behind him, and then the two Alfa Romeo Ferraris as well. As there is a yellow flag behind. I think that was for Kettles Dillon, maybe it was for could have been for OTG. In fact, Vaporian has left the session. He has already retired. Remember, that was the turn 1 incident there. DRS now enabled. There is the message, and look at Thyman. He's we have rain. We have rain. The first raindrops are hitting the track. Just as DRS is enabled, we get the first raindrops. The question is, they touch! And Thyman and Trench are out. What was Trench thinking there? We were on board for that. Why is Trench pulling over there? He must have known that Thyman was there. We have another safety car. And the safety car can't get past the wreckage of Trench. Oh, what was that move? Not Thyman. Trench, what was he thinking there? I think Trench misjudged where Thyman was. He wanted to block him off, wanted to defend into turn 2, but he didn't realize that Thyman was already up the inside, and they tangled up, both hit the wall, both out of the race, and I'm pretty sure that at least Thyman is absolutely furious about it. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Usually I try to not assert any kind of blame in situations, but this one was just blatantly obvious. Trench just completely misjudged it. And yeah, I mean this one hard to explain for Trench, really hard to explain. Now, Thyman, on the other hand, I mean, yeah, he can just say, I was there, I was alongside, I had my nose in there. I had every right to that piece of track. And I couldn't argue with him. But, another safety car. We have OTG, Ryan, and Best Bob in the pits. Let's look at the tyres once again. We have Ryan going onto the inters. He's trying to pull a very bold one here, but I gotta tell you this, it might pay off. If he can catch up with the field in time, and by the end of the safety car period, it rains enough, let's go on board. It's always better to see the situation on board. If it continues raining more and more, because this is not enough right now. You can see the track is dry, there are no wet patches anywhere. The safety car does not put up any spray, neither does Thomas if we look from Honey Badger's perspective. So no spray from any of the cars. Yeah, there's really not much going on, and by the way, I'm looking into the I'm looking at rather not into. I'm looking at the DM group of all the drivers, and Trench just apologized to Thyman, so he takes responsibility for that incident there. As the drivers apparently do stay out, all of them pretty much. No, OTG comes in. OTG comes in. And yeah, Trench now just says, I take that one. So that is Trench taking full responsibility for that one. And I'm pretty sure he really, really regrets that. But yeah. Really unlucky for Thyman in the end that he is out of the race once again. And again, not by his own fault. So, I mean, what can you do? OTG comes back out. He went on to the softs. And I think the call here is that he's expecting, as some other drivers on the softs are also expecting, Jay Clarkey and Best Bob, namely, they were expecting Thyman as well. I think he was trying to pull a great strategy here on the softs. They were expecting the rain to come around lap 10 to 15, or, you know, the Inters being the better tire by that at least. I mean, the rain has come, but it's not enough to switch to wet tires, intermediate or full wets. And so the hope was, I think, that the rain intensifies and their soft tires give them an advantage until that happens. And that might very well be the case. Best Bob OTG, as we get the message, safety car in this lap. Best Bob OTG, Jay Clarkey, I think they have a really, really good strategy here on their hands. At the same time, the rain doesn't really intensify. It does not become more. It stays, you know, a few drops here and there. But that's about it. That's certainly not enough to ever warrant a switch to the intermediates, as Thomas now with another safety car restart. Again, this time he does it a little bit earlier than last time. It's probably a smart call. However, Honey Badger was alert, and we are back under green flag racing. Again, no overtaking until the start-finish line. The front runners, or everyone's now past that anyway. So there goes Sammy Bean into P4 on Pablo Jogla. There we go. Into P4 goes usually the Haas driver, who is suddenly now in a Red Bull just for today. But he still races for Haas. And don't let that put you off. He is still supposed to be in a Haas. DRS going to be enabled by lap 11 if nothing else happens, as there goes Pat and Clarkey, and there's a Mercedes around. That's Pablo Jogla. That's Pablo Jogla who's around. My goodness. What happened there? Best Bob lets him by. I think they have tangled up somehow, which would be surprising. I think there was Pat involved, maybe Jay Clarkey, because that's where Pablo Jogla was originally. He was behind Sammy Bean in P5. And now he finds himself all the way down in P8 on the hard tire as well. I don't really understand that one. Anyway, seems like the rain has become a little bit more. Again, not much though. And you see the track again. There's no wet patches. It's a pretty pristine track condition right now. And it doesn't seem like... I mean, yes, there are more drops on the camera. So that certainly... Oh, no, there is more rain coming down now. So I would say, I would judge based on this that maybe by lap 12, we get the notification that DRS is disabled. Maybe lap 13. So it's still a while. It's still a couple of laps until we get there. But... rain and intermediates are certainly on the horizon. I mean, rain is already there, but intermediates are on the horizon. And should be coming out rather soon. Dylan into the pits. He's switching onto another set of softs. And Ryan is really struggling out here on the inters. You can see he's already dropping off over the course of 2 laps. 20 seconds from Thomas. The Inter's really not the best side here. That gamble certainly has not paid off, as we are down to 12 runners. after the turn 1 incident that saw Vaporeon retire, and then DRS now enabled. So it is still good enough for the dry tires. It is still good enough for the dry tires. The intermediates are still struggling out there, as you can see with Ryan. In fact, lap 12 might have been a bit optimistic from me. 13, 14, maybe 15 even. As, yeah, the rain is coming down a little bit more, but the track absorbs it quite well. So not really much in terms of rain going on right now. So, lap 11. Yeah, Honey Badger's too far away, really. Andres also a little bit too far away. Sammy Bean is still trying to stay with Andres, trying to stay in the DRS, trying to hold the gap, but now it's gone over a second. It's gone back down under a second. And he does get the DRS here on the start-finish straight. Will also get it for this straight right here after turn 1 and before turn 2, because there is one detection point before the final corner for both of these straights combined. So the detection point is in fact between, or just before the final corner. However, he doesn't get any here because he was too far away out of turn 4, and so he doesn't get any here, which really hurts him, obviously. But I think no one got DRS. Maybe Pablo Jogla got DRS off of OTG. And yep, he does. And he goes past the Alfa Romeo, at least up into P9, trying to salvage his race a little bit here. But apart from that, yeah, no one really in DRS range of one another. As OTG trying to maybe chalk up a move on Pablo Jogla, getting the position back. I mean, I would be a little bit surprised considering where both of them are in the championship, really. Although, they are really close. Oh, no, they're not. Sorry, that was IRLT Pat who is on points with Pablo Jogla, not OTG. So, yeah, Pablo Jogla in P4 in the standings, OTG in P12. My bad. P12. Here comes Pat into the pits. On the hards. That is early. Is he going on to Inters? Yes, he is. Oh, this is a gamble. This is a gamble, and I don't think that's gonna pay off. I mean, even Ryan, who was on the Inters, came in and went on to the hards. So Pat is now the only intermediate runner on track, and I don't think that was a good call. We're going to monitor that gap. Meanwhile, Best Bob goes past the Lima Super to Lima Super, instantly taking the position back on a cutback in the hairpin. Well done there. But yeah, look at that rain. It's still just, it's not pouring. It's just, you know, dripping slightly. I mean, here it's a little bit more. But sections of the track are really not seeing a lot of rain. So I questioned that decision from Pat. He came out of the pits with 33 seconds down on IRLT Thomas. And he is now down 35 seconds. And Pat right now is in the Mercedes arena. So that's not even 2 sectors. And he's lost 3 seconds now at the end of, or over 3 seconds at the end of 2 sectors. The intermediates are really not the call. Oh, and Pat is out! Pat is out. He must have... Oh, and Kettles Dillon as well. Ryan goes past Kettles Dillon. Let's look on the right side is where we should see Pat. There is his car on the right side. Yep, into the wall. And that is Pat out after the gamble onto the intermediates. That is his race over. No points for him today. And we are down to 11 runners already. My goodness. However, the top 3 have remained the same from the start. Thomas, Honeybadger, and Andres. Sammy Bean, meanwhile, from 50 to 4. We are now under virtual safety cars. So full course caution but no safety car coming out, only the virtual one. So the drivers have to stick to a delta time. If they go faster, they will be penalized with a 5-second penalty. They may have to serve at the next pit stop if they still have one. Otherwise, it will be a 5-second time penalty. So, in other words, don't go too fast as we're now back under green. And no one got a penalty, thankfully, as Kettles Dolan goes into the pits. After that crash, he will change his front wing, most likely. So, Honey Badger gets a 3-second penalty for track extensions. Multiple warnings, it says. That's usually the sign that he was a little bit too liberal with the track limits. Same goes for Best Bob right there. You can allow yourself 2 warnings. The third one gives you a penalty, and then you can allow yourself a 4th and a 5th warning, and the 6th one will get you a penalty, and so on and so forth. So every 3 warnings, as Honey Badger went wide in the hairpin. Andres says, thank you very much. That is a position. Meanwhile, Best Bob is out there. Oh my goodness. He spun around, it seems. Lost a bit of front wing, left side end plate gone. From the driver's perspective, right side end plate, you can still see the red end plate with Red Bull on it, but the left side is missing that. So, Best Bob with front wing damage. As again, it is still raining, but it's not raining enough for intermediates. There's still dry tire running. That is absolutely insane. And, yeah. I think Ryan has made the right call by going back onto the hards. Because it might happen very well that these rain conditions are never going to be enough for intermediate tires. It might be that we are going to see this weird sort of overlay between it is raining, but it's not enough, so we have to stay on the dry tires for the rest of the race. Clarkey goes on to the medium tire. That will see him through to the end, so he would not have to make another pit stop if the conditions remain the same or get better. If they get worse, obviously, onto the inters they go, all of them. But Jay Clarkey doesn't have to make another pit stop. Yeah, he already used the softs. Now he's using the mediums. And that sees him through to the end. Now, you only lose 17 seconds from a pit stop. So, Thomas would actually be comfortable right now making a pit stop, and he might just rejoin ahead of Pablo Joglar. Expect a lot of the medium runners come into the pits rather shortly. They can still stay out there. The mediums are so good because of the 2 safety car periods. Those move the pit window a little bit back. Sammy Bean comes in. He will switch on to the mediums, I would assume. Let's see. He pits. And inters! Sammy Bean goes on to inters. He might just have thrown his race away there. He might have just thrown his race away with that. Or it's the greatest call of this race. Because everyone else so far who switched to inters, they've regretted it. Ryan has regretted it as Honey Badger goes back past Andres into the hairpin. Takes P2 back. And yeah, Samu Bean, I'm not so sure. I think Samu may have beaned it here with that strategy cause. OTG goes past the Lima Super. Can we into the hairpin? Yep. Ryan gets a penalty. Might be consequential, but he's 50 seconds down on the lead. So how consequential can it be? Maybe, you know, the difference between P9 and P10. However, Best Bob also has at least one penalty of 3 seconds. So it just balances itself out. But yeah, Delima Super still really, really close to OTG. They're fighting for P6. And look at Sammy Bean. Yeah, he is losing more and more time. He can't hang. Look at him struggle out of the Zax curve. My God. Is he going back in? He's going straight back in. The rain has intensified just a little bit more, but I think Sammy Bean has realized that wasn't the call. He goes into the pits again. and tries to get rid of these intermediates. Yep, back onto mediums, and that will see him through to the end of the race. But yeah, I think that was an absolutely bean call there by Sammy Bean. We have yellow flag sector 3. That is for Ryan, I think. Yep, that is Ryan into the woods, into the grass, really. Must have lost it in turn 14 and then just, you know, went to the outside. It's a tricky corner. Has a little bit of undulation there. Wish we could see the front wing. We can't, and now he's in the pits. As he will... Oh! As he runs into the... Wow. He runs into the pit wall, and he is instantly out of the race. My goodness, Ryan, what was that? Oh boy, we are down to 10 runners. They are dropping like flies. So, down to 10 runners. And we have a little bit of a fight here between DeLima and OTG. As OTG goes into the pits now. Also onto the mediums, I would assume. Please don't go onto inters. Please don't go onto inters. Don't bother. Don't bother. The track isn't ready for it. And he goes on to mediums. That's a good call, I think. Could easily make it to the end. Jay Clarkey just overtook his teammate DeLima. So he's up to P5. Sammy Bean makes it past OTG. So he's up to P7. And we have Andres and Honey Badger fighting here. Let's look at the hairpin. The two Ferraris doing well. Kettles Dillon, his car is a ghost car. Because he has not disconnected, needs to be said. He has not disconnected. But what has happened if we look at this right now? Yeah, you can see. If he had disconnected, there'd be a red X after his name. There's not. He's just ghosting because he is a lapped car. And we don't want lapped cars to interfere with other cars. Although this is trippy. This is really trippy there for Clarkey. I would not want to race this. I mean, you know, it can't take you out, but it's just a distraction. As Honey Badger and Andres go in, maybe now's the time for intermediates. Maybe this is really it. Pablo and Thomas stay out, and Pablo just ahead of Honey Badger and Andres, and he takes second place. However, he still has to pit. So Pablo's going to lose 17 seconds. Meaning he's going to drop behind... he's going to drop behind Andres, but he's going to be ahead of Sammy Bean. As there we go, Honey Badger around the outside of Pablo. Pablo missing the apex a little bit. Runs him wide. Shoves him wide. My goodness, Pablo defending with all he has. The two Mercedes now ganging up on the racing point. Oh, there goes Honey Badger trying to hold it down the inside and now the outside. They're still side by side, and now something's got to give. Honey Badger trying to overtake into turn 11, turn 12. There goes side by side through here as well, and he does. Honey Badger with a great move. Takes P2, clears the traffic of Pablo Jogla, who again still has to pit. As Thomas now enters the pit lane, he will rejoin ahead of everyone else by a good 5 to 6 seconds. So, yeah, that's how much he's got to lead. Let's see what the time ultimately says there. 7. It's going to come down a little bit further. 6.3, 6.2. Yep, 6 seconds, pretty much. Oh, Pablo runs wide. You got to let your teammate by, I would argue. And I think, will he? I mean, now he has to. He doesn't have DRS. Andres does, and that should be an easy overtake into the hairpin, and it will be. If I was Pablo, I wouldn't fight it, because again, you're on different strategies, you're costing yourself time, and in this case, the other guy you're costing time is your teammate, so you want a good result from your teammate. In fact, right now, if the race finished like this, Andres and Pablo would get 27 points. Thomas and Best Bob for Toro Rosso would get 29, so the gap would only increase by 2 points, and the gap is only sitting at 3 points in the standings right now. So, you know, it's really, really close. We have a yellow flag. That is for Kettles Dylan, who has spun on the exit of turn 11. Gets the car back into the right direction. Does he have front wing damage? That is his car right there. No, he does not. So he didn't hit the wall, apparently, or if he did, just very slightly, very briefly. As Pablo now into the pits, he will switch on to the mediums. Most likely, I would expect that at least. No. Pablo, no. The next driver to mess up his pit stop, Pablo Jogla, goes on to the intermediates. He is still ahead of Sammy B. The question is how long. On these intermediate tires, it won't be for too long, as these still have no grip compared to dry tires. Yellow flag sector 3, that is Dylan again. And I think this time he goes into the pits. OTG goes onto it. Hold on, what is this? Oh, and Sammy Bean sends it to the inside, hits Pablo Jogla. I don't think that move was on. DRS disabled. Now intermediates are the better tire. What is happening? And Pablo Jogla now looks like a genius. What is going on? All of a sudden, the intermediates become the better tire. What a crazy weather race. Thomas in the pits. Honey Badger will follow him. Just give it a few seconds. And there you go. Andres as well. Andres, in fact, overtakes Honey Badger on the entry of the pit lane. And Andres gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Sammy Bean has to come in. Clarkey has to come in. This is going to change everything. Jogla is back into it. Let's see, where do the others rejoin? Let's go. Let's look at Arlety Thomas right now. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. Whoops. My apologies. I did not want that. There you go. That's Thomas. There's Andres. Pablo is in P3 ahead of Honey Badger, who drops down to 4th. Sammy Bean in, Clarkey in. They will lose time. Sammy Bean was held a little bit there, it seems. Here comes OTG. Where is Sammy Bean? Sammy Bean now leaving the pit exit. Oh, this is getting close. Dylan retires from the session. He apparently dropped it again on the exit of turn 11, turn 12, sorry. Same spot as Arlety Pat. And we are actually down to 9 runners at this point. And we have a safety car. I think that is for Kettles Dylan's incident there, as this is now the second car to be stranded right there. So, everyone cool down. We're going to have a dash to the finish, I think. Just around 10 laps is what it's going to end up being. Maybe 9, we'll see. But no one should go into the pits right now, but someone does. Pablo! Why is he going into the pits? He's on the intermediates. And he's going on to another set of intermediates. The intermediates last around 15 laps. 15 to 90. 15 laps until they start falling off a cliff. 19 laps until you are entering puncture territory. I'm going to question that move, but he didn't lose any... he did lose a position to Honey Badger, but... now he's on slightly fresher tires, but again, he lost a position, and I would at this point argue the track position ahead of Honey Badger was probably more important than getting 2 laps fresher intermediates than you already had. So... yeah, I'm not sure about this one. He didn't change the front wing either, so that was not a concern. It was really just about the tires, and yeah, again, I'm going to have to question that. But anyway, he will close up to Honey Badger, Andres, and Thomas, so at least he's got that going for him, which is nice. for him. There he is. And we are going to see at least one more lap under the safety car. So we will ultimately have at most 9 laps of a green flag running here under the, or in the rain. Not under the safety car, it would be green flag running, so obviously not under the safety car since it's green flag. But yeah, 9 laps remaining at the end of this one. I mean, now it's 10 laps remaining, but at the end of this one will be 9. Question is whether the safety car comes in at the end of this lap, or maybe the end of next one. But I would expect it to be the end of this lap. I don't know what Pablo's doing there. Single file on the safety car, please, my lads. Single file. Don't know why you're trying to overtake someone there. I mean, I get, you know, not being directly behind the other car, you know, being, you know, offset to the side, but don't put your nose next to the other car. The reason why I say you want to be a little bit offset in the, you know, in terms of like laterally, so you don't want to be driving directly behind the other car, but like to the left or to the right behind the other car, diagonally behind the other car, if you will. Because in case they do brake for some reason that maybe you don't see, you don't want to be running straight into them. You want to have like a clear bit of track in front of you so that you can brake as well and remain behind them, but not run into them. That's something I've always done, and it's always served me well. Could tell from experience that will always serve me well. Safety car now coming in, so Thomas, once again, safety car restarts. He's done well twice so far on these. He's got at least one more to go, and we have 9 more laps, and that is a fantastic fantastic safety car restart once again. Landra's sleeping a little bit. They're already 7/10 the gap into turn 1. We go on board a little bit. Honey Badger gets a 3-second time penalty for cutting turn 1. We have Pablo Jogla as well. I would look at Sammy Bean right now because he was one of the quickest. He was in P3 at one point of this race after starting from P15. He's still in P6. But I would expect him to move up the order a little bit. And, not right now. Oh, as there goes OTG. A little bit too deep into the corner. Honey Badger loses position to Pablo Jogla after briefly getting it. And OTG completely messed up that hairpin. Honey Badger also looking really, really feisty here. Trying to get the move on. But he's struggling now. Struggling a little bit. I mean, all these drivers are struggling. The rain! My goodness, did you see the fishtailing on that racing point? Unbelievable. How did he hold that? How did he hold that? That was remarkable. Car control by Honey Badger. So, 8 more laps. We will not see any DRS until... Let's see, is there... Oh, look at Honey Badger struggling. There goes Clarky down the inside. Into turn 2, gets the position. Honey Badger really struggling. What is going on with that racing point? That was insane. The fact that he did not spin. To me, I don't understand it. But meanwhile, here goes Honey Badger. We're looking on from Sammy Bean's perspective. And Honey Badger around the outside. It's not really there for the racing point. Does he have damage? As in the background, Best Bob and OTG are fighting. I'm trying to see. No, his front wing looks good. His front wing looks good. I don't understand. Sammy Bean getting a penalty. We are going to check the penalties at around lap 31, 32, because that's when we get for the first time, like, a really good idea of the penalty situation. Yeah, you can see Honey Badger really struggling. I think what it is, really, as Sammy Bean shows himself, but I don't think that move was on into turn 1. Not really the best overtaking opportunity. Turn 2, however, much better. And Sammy Bean sends it and takes it. A little bit of wheel banging there between the two, but at the end of the day, no harm, no foul. Sammy Bean takes the position, and up into P5 he goes. Now, no overtaking here between the two Mercedes. We are going to look at Sammy Bean and Honey Badger again, and we're going to look at OTG and DeLima. Super note, DeLima decides against it. We have 3 battles going on. It's really hard to keep focus here between these 3 fights. Although now Andres pulling away a little bit from Pablo. Jay Clarkey, in fact, he might be on for his tying his best finish so far this season. He's already had a 4th place and 12 points from it last week in Belgium. He might get another 4th place and another 12 points right here. Oh, Pablo's off. Pablo's off. Pablo into the gravel. Oh my goodness. He has to rejoin all the way down in P9 and last of the runners. What has happened there? Pablo losing his nerves, spinning off, and now he's just frustrated, puts it into the wall, frustrated with himself, and that is him out of the race. That is not good sportsmanship, I have to say, Pablo. Not so sure about that one. We also get a VSC from it, so that might actually see him get a penalty for next race, because obviously he didn't finish this one. Virtual safety car. Everyone's having to stick to a delta. And we will then get green flag racing as soon as we get the notification in the top left. As soon as it disappears. There we go. We are back on full race pace. And Andres is looking good. He gained a little bit there. During the VSC. That can very well happen. The VSC is supposed to freeze the gaps between the drivers. However, it doesn't always do that, depending on where you are on the track, whether you are just braking into a corner or whether you want to, or whether you are just on the beginning of a straight, makes a very big difference, or in the middle of a straight. The worst thing you could have is in the middle of a straight almost, and then the VSC is over. The best thing you can have is you're just coming out of a corner and have a really long straight in front of you, because then you can accelerate for the whole straight while everyone ahead cannot accelerate for the whole straight. So you have an advantage on them. You know, that brings down a gap. So what Eiler T. Thomas would be hoping for, if we do get another VSC, for example, is that the VSC ends as he comes out of a corner, or he is in a corner. What he doesn't hope for is that it happens in the middle of a straight, or a long acceleration zone. The worst one would be in the middle of Parabolica. So, Andres and Thomas, 6/10 between the two of them. Now we got Jake Lucky and Sammy being really close here as well. Half a second, the gap, it was closer. It is still closer. 3/10. And I think we can now take the tire away and go to position change. Obviously, all drivers have used 2 different sets of compounds. 1 being whatever dry tire they ran on, and 2 being the intermediate they're on now. Jay Clarkey gets a penalty, and lap 31, I promise you, lap 31 is when we look at penalties. So this is what we're going to do right now. Thomas has a warning, but obviously keeps it clean as always. Andres, 9 seconds. Clarkey, 6 seconds. Sammy Bean, I think he did not serve that 5-second penalty, so that's 11 seconds. Honey Badger, 6 seconds and 2 warnings. OTG, oh my goodness. OTG, 5... hold on. It should be a penalty plus warning. That's interesting. I would assume that's 13, 19, plus probably another... What is that? Another... Oh, that's a really tricky one. OTG has a lot of penalties, definitely. Best Bob, I think he served both of his 5-second penalties. So, yeah, definitely. So, 6 seconds. Delima Super, no penalties. That might see him get a really good finish. OTG, that should be a 5-second penalty. Another 5-second penalty. I think he served both of those. So, 3, 6, 9. 9 seconds penalties for OTG, and obviously Pablo Joglar did not finish. As we are in the final 3 laps of this race. Andres started P3. Right now in P2. Trying to get that P1. But with 9 seconds worth of penalties, he has to look behind more than ahead. Because again, RLT Thomas has no penalties, so he's looking pretty much like he's going to win this. And Andres needs to pull as much of a gap as possible to at least get as many points as possible. But with everyone behind him having penalties, or almost everyone behind him having penalties, he might still be on for a podium at the very least. Maybe not P2, because he's got 3 cars in Clarky, Sammy Bean, and Honey Badger behind him, as Honey Badger gets another 3-second time penalty. So that adds to his total. So lots of penalties, really tricky situation this one. Hard to figure out which penalties are 3 seconds and which ones aren't. Two laps left to go. Thomas and Andres, and behind that, Sammy Bean and Clarky as well. I have to say, if I had to nominate a driver of the day, I know it's almost 2 laps early, but I would have to go for Sammy Bean at this point. I mean, start P15. Yes, he did mess up the strategy a little bit, but gaining 11 places, and he was in that position for a long time. He was in P4 for at least half the race. So I have to say, Sammy Bean with a fantastic drive all the way down from 15th. And certainly worthy of a driver of the day if we had such an award. We don't, but I have to just... I mean, I gotta say, congratulations, Sammy Bean. If he somehow also gets a podium, I've already forgotten his penalty situation. I don't think he will get a podium. But just on track, a really good drive from him. And maybe he can at least get a podium on track. We are going to follow on board with him at least a little bit here. As the rain intensifies, you can see this is almost full of wet conditions at this point. My goodness. However, we are on the final lap of the race, and that means we are going to go to the man, the leader, RLT Thomas. He's on 50 points already after 2 races in the championship. And it seems like he's going to go for another 25 here. Getting another victory. Making 3 out of 3. Back to back to back. The 3-peat for RLT Thomas. Through the Mercedes arena once more, with the Mercedes behind him trying to maybe get the win on track. But obviously Andres has a load of penalties, and he gets one more. That's 12 seconds now for him. But Thomas, he's just keeping it cool as always. I mean, after 3 wins out of 3 races, is it too early to call him the Lithuanian legend? through the final 2 corners, and it will be Toro Rosso on the top step of the podium once again as Isla T. Thomas takes the checkered flag and the win here at the German Grand Prix. Andres finishes P2. However, and Honey Badger comes across the line with a damaged car. And it is Jay Clarkey in second place, his best result of the season. Andres does keep a third place at least. Honey Badger P4, Sammy Bean P5, Best Bob P7 because the Lima Super with no penalties in P6. And then it will be OTG with the final 4 points in P8. So this is 31 points for Toro Rosso. But most importantly, 25 of those for ILRT Thomas. What a race it was. And there he is, the Lithuanian flag above all others once again, with a Brit in second and Jay Clarkey, and a Spaniard in third with Andres. Let the celebrations begin. ILRT Thomas victorious once again, making it 3 out of 3. Who can stop this man? I think that's the question we have to ask. Who can stop this man? I don't think anyone's capable of that. 3 wins in 3 races. I think 3 times the pole position as well. If maybe Sammy Bean, I would have to put my hopes into like either Sammy Bean, Andres, if he stays penalty free next week. Pablo, but I mean, yeah, a little bit too mistake prone. I mean, Jay Clarkey had a fantastic race, but in terms of pace, I don't think he was close. It's really tough. Thyman, if he finally is able to finish a race, doesn't get taken out for once. Vaporeon as well. I mean, there's some really fast drivers. Honey Badger, all of these should, be at least close to Thomas, but for some reason, Thomas just, I mean, winning and winning and winning and winning. What can you do about this man? Just a remarkable drive once again from the Lithuanian. And, making it 3 out of 3. We will be back next week with the British Grand Prix at the home of British Motor Racing. It will be the Silverstone Circuit. Same time, 7:30 p.m. UK. And I hope I see you there. Make sure to hit the subscribe button on the Racing Gaming League channel. Make sure to hit the like button as well. And all I can say is thank you very much for watching. Take care. And I'll see you next week. Goodbye.